Hey everyone, welcome to today's Vantage Live analysis session. So we'll just wait for about 1 to 2 more minutes for more people to stream in before we get the session started. And at the same time, if you guys have any questions with regards to the chart analysis then that you want us to take a look at, do put them under the questions chat. Okay, so I'll also be opening the questions panel as well so that I can see any of the questions that you guys have. So for today, we will be covering mainly on Aussie dollar, or rather doing a review of Aussie dollar. We will take a look at dollar index as well, from where we last made the analysis on Wednesday. So if you guys have any other requests, right? If there are any charts that you want me to look at, let's take a look at them together, right? Just put them under the questions chat. Okay, let's start today's session. Right, so for those of you guys who just joined, a very warm welcome. So for today, we are covering on the live analysis session. So for this, we will be going through the chart setups and also doing a review of the setups that were covered on Wednesdays. So on Wednesdays and Fridays, this is when we will be doing the live analysis session. We will be showing trade setups and we will also cover what was covered in the earlier session. So just a review of them. So a quick introduction of myself. I'm Lee Sing, right? And I provide FX advisory to institutional clients. I'm also part of the team that's recognized by the Technical Analyst Awards as finalist for the best FX research. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. So for those of you guys who are watching the recording, so if you do want to take a look at the previous recordings in terms of the calls that were made when we're doing the review today, right? You can check them out on Vantage Markets, the YouTube page. And if you are with us live, right, if you have any questions, do put them under the questions chat. If not, if you're watching a recording, you feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. So just a quick disclaimer before we get the session started. The information presented here, it's not to be treated as investment advice. They are for educational purposes only. So this is the agenda for today. We will first start off by covering the key economic events, right? And then following which we will be doing a review of the trade setups. For this would actually be more on Aussie dollar because that was what we covered on Wednesday, right? So that would be the review. For the setup, we will take a look at Aussie dollar, right? And I have a request as well for pound yen. So yes, let's take a look at pound yen as well, right? So right now there are a lot of fundamentals factors that are driving this moves, especially for pound and yen, right? Like you mentioned, this British political change and also the intervention of BOJ. So yeah, we will take a look at the technical levels on pound yen and see if there are any specific ones that we're looking out for, whether it's currently sitting on supply or demand zones. And then, yeah, and throughout the session, right, if you guys have any questions, it can be with regards to the analysis, maybe with regards to certain tools that I'm using. In general, for the live analysis session, I use a lot of Fibonacci retracements and extensions, as well as supply demand areas. So this is a brief overview of it, right? And of course, you do using the top-down approach. So essentially looking at the higher time frame to determine our direction and using the smaller time frames for entry. Okay, so this would be the flow for today. So before we hop on to the trade setups, right, before we hop on to our charts, let's take a look at the economic calendar first. So let me just bring up the economic calendar. So for the economic calendar, usually I'll use either Forex Factory or you can also use Vantage Markets economics calendar. So let me just bring that up in a moment. There we go. So this is Vantage Markets website. So you can just do a quick Google or just type the URL vantagemarkets.com under education and tools, right? Economic calendar. So essentially what this shows you it's a series of data and it's ranked according to their, rather not ranked according to their impact, but it shows the impact of the key releases as well. So in this case, you can see that for today, right, mainly we have the Eurozone's data coming up, but none that it's of extremely high impact. So usually the ones that I'll keep a lookout for would be, for example, your CPI data, right? So this measures inflation. So inflation is also one of the factors that, or rather the key factor that central banks are watching out for in terms of determining their interest rates. So when inflation is running high, what it forces the central banks to do is to raise interest rates further in order to stop price pressure from rising as fast. But of course, that comes with other risks as well. For example, growth risk, right? So it increases risk of recession. Then there is CATS data, so CATS GDP data, as well as US data. So a bunch of US data, pending home sales. So in general, how you can interpret this is that the ones with the dark red and amber are the ones with high and medium impact, and the ones with silver are the ones with the lowest impact. So generally, I take a look at the G7 currencies, right? So that will include your dollar, euro, pound, Aussie, Kiwi, as well as CAD and yen. Okay, so those are the main ones. You can also compare the actual and forecasted value just to have a sense of what the markets are expecting and the actual data, right? So if the actual data is worse than the forecast, depending on the data that's being released, right? So let's say if retail sales data is weaker than what is anticipated, then usually it's bad for the currency, right? Whereas if your CPI data comes up to be higher than the forecasted value, what this could possibly mean is that central banks could also increase the extent of the rate hike in order to stem this inflation. So this sits on the economic calendar, right? So now that we have covered the economic calendar, we can see that generally the main movements for today would affect mainly your euro, CAD, as well as dollar. Okay, so let's take a look at the chart right now, right? So for chart, we have requests for pound yen. If you guys have other requests as well, do put them under the chat so we can take a look at them. So for the chart on Wednesday, right, we actually covered on Aussie dollar. So let's take a look at how Aussie dollar played out. So on Aussie dollar, back when we covered the chart on Wednesday, I believe prices were trading in the middle of a range, right? So this is on dollar index. Let's take a look at dollar index as well, right? But first, let's take a look at Aussie dollar first. So in this case, right, this is on Aussie dollar, right? Okay, we have dollar index, right? And DAX as well as US 100. Okay, so we will take a look at them, all of them later as well further. Okay, so let's take a look at Aussie dollar. So on Aussie dollar, on the higher time frame first, right, we highlighted this value over here. This is on the weekly time frame. So on the bigger time frame, we saw that prices were sitting on a support region. When we go down to the 4 hours time frame, we highlighted two areas, right? First is this region over here as a support turn resistance area. Resistance turn support area. How so? We saw how prices react here, right? So price tested as both a support and then a resistance, and then we saw a clear break above the structure. So this is one zone that we highlighted as the support, and then this is the region as a resistance here. So this is on the 4 hours, right? So for those of you guys who are new to the live analysis session, let me just explain a little bit on this blue marker that we have here. So essentially this tracker, it's how prices were like, right, when we saw the chart on Wednesday. So back when we saw the chart on Wednesday, it's something like that, right? So these were the two zones that we highlighted on Wednesday. So you can also do a review of the previous video, right? So they are posted on YouTube, right? So essentially it's the zone, right? So these are the two zones we have marked out. So this is how it plays out. So we're bullish on this area, right? So this is the ghost feet that we have, right? The ones in colored candle essentially is our projection. So essentially we highlighted this two zone, given that on the higher time frame prices are sitting on the support region, right? We are either bullish on this area, so expecting price to push higher into this region, that's one. And also when price reaches this resistance area, right, same thing, right, on either of this region, basically trying to go down to the smaller time frame. So right now we're on a 1 hour. So after this, we want to go down to the 15 minutes time frame to try and find areas to short from here or areas to buy from this region. So that's basically what we're doing here, right? So essentially when you go to the 1 hour time frame, or let me just remove the replay button and you can see, right? So in this region itself, right, price actually tapped into this area. You can see this push down. So if I go to the 1 hour time frame, you can see. So back when we made the call, prices were here in time. So we're bullish from this area. You can see that price actually rallied higher into the resistance area first. So it pushed straight into this resistance area that we have. Right, so price pushed up higher. If you have an entry set here, right, we wouldn't have caught this move up. When price comes into this region, you can see here on this region itself. So let me just remove the projection. So right now, price already bounced. You saw this move, right? This push up from here. So let me just remove this area. You can see that currently prices are testing this Fibonacci confluence levels here as well. In terms of how we got this Fibonacci confluence levels, right, we highlighted the move. So it's basically trying to find a strong move up and then a retracement. And if we want to use Fibonacci retracement to find support, we will identify the low as the starting point to use and the high as the ending point. And that's how we got our retracement levels here. In terms of extension levels, there are zigzag patterns. So in this case, you can see that this is one zigzag pattern you can consider. And we will be using these 3 points for the extension levels, right, to project this extension. So that's how we got the Fibonacci confluence levels. So again, if this is very confusing, right, don't worry, we will be using this techniques a lot in the live analysis session, right? You can also check out the videos. So they're all posted on YouTube, the live analysis session ones. In fact, everything, I believe, right? So you can just take a look at them, see how the techniques are being applied. So in this case, you can see that on the 30 minutes time frame itself, right, this region, so price actually came and visited this resistance first, this area over here. So likewise, right, when price enters into this region, as always, you want to go down to the smaller time frame. So this area, it's your 4 hours resistance, this gray zone that we have marked out here. So when price comes into this region, right, you can go down to the 30 minutes time frame, you can go down to the 15 minutes time frame. So essentially what we're trying to find coming into this region, so we want to focus on this area, it's to find a clear break of support resistance levels, right, or demand areas. So in this case, you can see that if I were to mark out the recent structure, price pushed up, you see a clear break above the last high. And then higher lows and higher highs basically being formed in this area coming into this gray zone that we have here. So this is the last low that we have, right? So essentially this is also your support area. So if you look at it in line chart, you can see as well, right? Seeing how price interacted with this zone a few times as a support here. And what we're trying to wait for in this region, right? It's to basically wait for a clear break below this zone first. So this is the support area. Until price breaks below this area, it doesn't say much, right? Because price will always come into this region to continue higher. So this is the reason why it's important for us to wait for a clear break below this zone here. Right, so that's the idea. So once price breaks below this area, this is on the 30 minutes time frame. You can see it on the 15 minutes time frame as well in terms of how prices interact, right? It's the same area. So basically price coming in to test this area as a support and then it failed, retested as a resistance. So in this case, right, once this happens, you can take a shot, right? So either take this area. So this can be a support turn resistance area. So clear break below this level, a close of this region, right? So this would be a support turn resistance level here. And then playing the push down here. So this is one way you can take the setup, right? So back when we saw the chart, it was somewhere here in time. So it was here, right? So price push into the resistance area. And right now you can see a clear break and a retest of it as a resistance over here before price continue on the downside. That's one, right? For those of you guys who are familiar with Fibonacci retracement, what you can also do is to basically take a Fibonacci retracement of this move. So this is the move before the pullback. So you can take a retracement from the high to low. So this would be the area and try and find the Fibonacci retracement that line up with the zone. So again, as I've mentioned before in the earlier videos as well, there will always be a level anywhere here, right? So in this case, what you want to do as much as possible is to identify your zones first and then use these levels when it coincides with these levels, with the zones. Okay, so that's the idea. So you can see in this case itself, right, the closest one that we have on this zone is actually the 61.8 retracement. Of course, this is not a perfect snipe. You can see this area price actually pushed slightly higher before it continued to the downside. Okay, so this is this case. So this is basically a support and resistance level, right? So as always, you see the same techniques being applied again and again. And then this is the last structure where you saw that break. So basically, once price breaks above this region, this is where we're wrong. This is when we will want to get out of the position. So this would be on Aussie dollar, right? So let's take a look at where it is currently. So you can see that on Aussie dollar right now, if you take a look at it on the 4 hours picture, this was the support region that we've highlighted earlier. You can see this area over here, right? So this was the previous resistance area. And then price broke above it, retested as a support. We also did a Fibonacci retracement of this move, right? So back then we saw the movement here. So the retracement taken was from this move using this low to this high. But right now, where prices are, you can see that this retracement level is no longer valid. The reason why it is so, it's because I use this lowest point and my highest point is actually this point here. So this is valid as long as to the right of this point, right? So this is the last point that I have, right? So I need to make sure that to the right of this point that we have here, so anywhere from here onwards, there's no point that breaks above it. So there isn't a higher point. But in this case, you can see that as price developed, right, from where we left off on Wednesday, price actually formed a new high. So in this case, this is now the last move, right? So I should be using this high as the highest point instead. So you can see the price came into this region, but in terms of the retracement level, we would actually have to revise it. Okay, so this is because on Wednesday, the highest point that we saw back then was here. But when we saw how price developed over the 2 days, right, you can see that this is now your new highest point. So I'll have to adjust the retracement level. So same thing, right? The retracement, this is the highest point. I will just turn on the magnet mode because the magnet mode, when you hover around the candle that you want, right, actually captures the points nicely. So in this case, you can see that these are the two. This is an extension. Okay, I will not edit the extension first. We will cover that in the next one. Let me just change the retracement first. So in this case, you can see the retracement, right? So the next retracement that we have within this region, the 38.2% that we have over here. Let me just remove the extension for a bit, right? So you can see that the 38.2% that we saw on the retracement, price came in the first time and tested it, and it broke below it the second time. You can see this region, price came in, tested it the first time on this 38.2 retracement. We saw that acknowledgement, and then price pushed lower, and right now prices broke below this region here. So right now the next level that we have, it's the 50%, which is slightly lower. So this is one area to keep in mind. So this is just on using retracements and extension levels. So the other thing that we want to identify, it's our extension. So just now that was the one I deleted, right? Again, because it wasn't up to date. So this is the zigzag pattern that we have. So again, you want to use these 3 points as the turning points, right? Like what we've covered in the retracement, you need to make sure that the last point that we have over here, to the right of this point, there isn't a higher level, right? So price did not actually break the high. Once price breaks the high, right, then in this case, your extension level is no longer valid. So this is the zigzag pattern. So let's take a look at it, right? Having drawn this zigzag pattern, what we want to do is again, use these 3 turning points. So the first point, second point, and third point. So we will be using these 3 turning points for our extension. So first point, second point, third point. So when you open up the key levels on extension, right? So these are the 3 common levels. I'll just mark them all in blue so that we're able to see them and differentiate them from the retracement levels. So in this case, you can see that this level, right, the level that is within the gray zone that we have identified would be the 78.6%, which prices are currently testing right now. So this is the picture, right? The zone and also the retracement level that we have. So let me just remove the 38. So this is the area that we have over here. This is on the 4 hours picture. Okay, so this is the support region that we have here. Okay, so this is on Aussie dollar, right? So same thing, right? You can see that in terms of the 4 hours structure, what we have currently, it's that we have prices forming your higher lows and higher highs. This is within the last leg, right? So price pushed up, and right now we're seeing this retracement here. So currently prices are testing this region. As always, right, this is on a 4 hours picture. So this is your 4 hours zone. So what you want to do is to go down to the smaller time frame. So let's hop down to the 30 minutes time frame. So on the 30 minutes time frame, what's interesting here is that you can see that coming into this region, you can see bearish market structure in play. How so? You can see that prices are forming your lower lows and lower highs in this region, right? So if I were to mark out the lows and highs, you can see that this is one high, and then likewise over here, right? So right now what it shows me over here is that coming into this area, we have bearish market structure being formed. So even though prices are sitting on this support area, until we see a clear break above this high itself, right? This region for me, we could see more downside. So this is the 30-minute structure. So just focusing on this recent move here. Okay. So let me just remove this because this is no longer valid. Right. So currently what we have currently on the 30 minutes is that you can see that there is potentially a descending channel being formed over here. Right. So if I was to extend this across, okay, so this is the area. Ideally, right, this wouldn't have been a channel, because for it to be considered a valid channel, we need price to tap at least the support area twice. So this is just something to keep in mind, right? So for now, right, until price tested and bounced above this area, it's still not considered a descending channel yet. But what we do see here is that we have some kind of descending trend line that's being formed over here. So let me just put it in, let's say a red region, right? So this is one area to keep in mind. Right, so this is your descending trend line. Something else that we can also do right? On this level, it's again identifying our zones. So if you take a look at where we are on the 30 minutes time frame, you can see that within this leg itself, this region that we have, so this is the descending trend line, right? So within this leg itself, you can see that this area, same thing, we see a clear support and resistance level here. You can see this area, right? So in terms of how price interacted with this zone, you can see that we have this area, price testing as a resistance and then as a support. And this area, it's one area that we have in this region. So the area highlighted in blue. And same thing, if you take a look at it in line chart, you can see that there is basically this horizontal line that I can draw across that separates price very neatly. So this area here, you can see this blue line that's being drawn across, right? Essentially, you can see how price interacted as a resistance and then again as a support. So this is just something to keep in mind, right? So this is one zone that I want to keep in mind here. Let me just remove the area. Okay, so having identified our zone, let me just turn on the magnet mode so that we're able to capture it neater here. Okay, so this is the area. So if you want to be even more specific, you can see that this, you can extend this across, right? So just looking at how price interacted with this region. So what you can do following this, right? Fibonacci retracement of the move, you can see that this is the strong push down, right? So depending on where price form your new lower low, we can take a retracement of the move using the high as the starting point and the low as the ending point. So that's what we're going to do right now. So Fibonacci retracement of the move from the high to low. Right, so these are the levels, same thing. These are all the Fibonacci retracement levels that we have. So in this level itself specifically that lines up with this zone, right, you can see that there are no levels here, at least not on this move that I've taken, not on this move. So on this region, right, there is no retracement level here, so that's fine. So let me just remove this. Another retracement level that we can do would be this area. You can see again, this is one push down, potential pullback, right? So again, I do have to emphasize that a lot of it depends on how price closes over here, right? So if price forms a new low, you will have to adjust the retracement accordingly. So same thing, retracement of the move from high to low here. So Fibonacci retracement of this move from high to low. Turn on the magnet mode again, right? The same thing here. So this captures the high and lows nicely. So in this example itself, you can see that the 50% retracement, this area here, this 50% would line up with this blue zone that we have. Okay, so this would be one area to consider. So now that we have identified this, the next thing we want to do is to identify our Fibonacci extensions. So Fibonacci extensions are basically zigzag patterns. So you can see that this is one zigzag pattern that we have here. So again, we want to use these three turning points to project our extension level. So the point 1, point 2, and point 3. So same thing, right? Three common levels that we always use. In this example specifically, you can see that the 61.8 level would line up with what we have. So this is what we term the Fibonacci confluence. So essentially, we highlighted a zone where there's a probability of retracements and extensions lining up, right? So there's a higher probability of the setup. So as always, all trades, it's about probability, right? There isn't a guaranteed position, right? There's always a chance that price could push much higher as well. So yeah, so this is about, a lot of it's about managing risk. So this it's on Aussie dollar, right? So I think we could see a pullback into this region before price continue on the downside. So like always, right, when price enters into this region, so this is the bearish move. Okay, so when price enters into this region to play the shorts over here, right? You don't want to take a short immediately, right? When price enters into this region, same thing, we're on the 30 minutes time frame. So what you want to do, go down to the 5 minutes time frame. Coming into this region, price should be forming your higher lows and higher highs. So you want to wait for a clear break in structure or clear change or clear break below the last low before price continue to the downside. So a clear break of the support would be the confirmation that we need to look for on the smaller time frame. So this is on Aussie dollar, right? Let's take a look at the other setups as well. So we do have a few setups that you guys requested for. So this is the review on Aussie dollar and also the outlook that we have. Oops, sorry for that, right? Okay, so let's take a look at pound yen. So we have requests for pound yen dollar index as well as DAX. So let's take a look at that. So on the higher time frame first, so this is on pound yen. So you can see that on the higher time frame, we have marked out the different zones, right? So this is the resistance area, this is the support area, right? Or rather supply demand areas, right? So essentially we saw how price interacted within this zone on the monthly time frame. So we've marked out this area, you can see that prices are currently entering into this region is currently testing this area here. On the weekly time frame, right, pretty similar levels that we have. If we go to the daily time frame, so this was the area. Let me see, where were we? Okay, so this region. Let me remove the previous markings because this is no longer valid here, right? So this, all of this is not valid. So we'll just be living with the current zones that we have here. So on the daily time frame first, right? So daily time frame, you can see that even on with the most recent structure, the most recent leg up, you can see that prices are still forming your higher lows and higher highs. That is on the daily, right? Likewise on the 4 hours, right? Potentially you could have an ascending trend line. It's just something to keep in mind. Here you can see that prices are also holding above this region. But as always, right, trend lines can be subjective. So it's just good to know. But in this case, right, what's more important for me is still identifying the zones and the horizontal levels. So you can see just looking at this level across here, right, the most immediate level that stands out is this level here. You can see again, right, just looking at how price interacted with this region. Resistance as a support, and then price broke above it, retested this region as a support before it continued to the upside. So this is for me the support area here. So you can see this region here. So price came in to test that as a resistance and held as a support. So I'll just put it in a different color so that we're able to see it. Let's say in blue, right? So you have this region here. So you can see that prices are currently still testing within this region. So there isn't anything much on a 4 hours time frame. You can see that currently prices broke above this high. This is the last high. You can see price broke and closed above this region, right? So anywhere within this leg itself for the 4 hours, this is the new structure, right? We could see a pullback within this leg. There isn't any clear structure to be formed just as yet, right? But you can see that there is higher lows and higher highs being formed essentially. If you go to the 1 hour time frame, zoom down to the 1 hour time frame, right? So pretty much the same things over here. So price broke above the high. You can see that within this zone itself, demand areas are still being respected. So this area here, you can see this move, right? So essentially the extreme of the candles, price came in, tap into this candles, right? So for me, this is the last area that we have, right, as a demand region. So it's the same thing, right? So once you have identified this area, what you want to do next is to do a Fibonacci retracement of your move. This is the last move before that pullback. So you want to take a retracement of this move from low to high and see if there are any levels that line up with this zone. So Fibonacci retracement of the move from low to high, open up the key levels, right? So these are all the key levels. So you can see specific to this example, right? 78.6 retracement lines up in this region. So currently for me, right, if price comes into this region to test this area, you can either look for a long from here, but what's also important is to make sure that on the smaller time frame, there is a change in structure, because coming into this region, you'll see lower lows and lower highs being formed. So this is just one region I want to keep a lookout for. But once price enters into this region, I'm not taking an immediate position, right? You want to go to the smaller time frame for confirmation. So this is one, right? And the next thing that we can also do, it's our zigzag pattern. You can see that this is the zigzag pattern. So you can project 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3. So likewise, right, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, open up the key levels. So these are the levels you can see over here, right? So these are the 3 common levels that I use. Sometimes I go to the 1.272 as well, but rarely beyond that, right? So the furthest it's 1.618, but generally not. So in this case, you can see that with this example itself, the one that lines up very neatly is this 1.272. So you can see this region. Let me put it in red. You can see this clearer here. So this area. So we have the 78.6 retracement. We have also the 127.2 level here. So it's around 168.30. So this is one support area to keep a lookout for, right? Currently for me, there aren't any nice setups, right? Even when price enters into this region, there isn't any nice target here. So if price comes into this region over here, right, there are 2 ways you can play this. Either wait for a clear break and close below this area to play the shorts, right? So if price breaks and close above this, so below this area, wait for a pullback to play the shorts. That's one. The other one is when price enters into this region, right? Go to the smaller time frame. If coming into this area, you have bearish market structure, a clear break above this last high, right? We could see short-term upside. So this is my view on pound yen on a 1 hour time frame, right? We want to keep in mind that on the monthly time frame, it's sitting on a potential resistance, so which is this blue zone that we have over here. But on the smaller time frame, you can see that support areas or demand areas are still holding as well. So for me, right, until there is a clear change in structure or clear break below this support area here, for me, it's still bullish on the 1 hour. Okay, so this is my view on pound yen, right? There isn't any clear structure for us to target. You can see if we do see a pullback from here, right? If price bounces from here, you see that confirmation on the smaller picture, you can target the last high that we have here, which is this high, right? If this is the high that causes that pullback. So this is my view on pound yen, right? Let's take a look at dollar index. So dollar index is interesting. We did cover it on Wednesday as well. So dollar index on the higher time frame, right? It's the same setup. So you have essentially on the higher time frame, the zones didn't change, right? You have support area, and this is the candle that holds within it before it fails. So this is our supply. Price came in, tapped into the supply region over here on dollar index on the daily, right? And back then we saw that price came and tested this ascending trend line before it broke and closed below this region, right? This could be a potential test of this area. So we highlighted this area, right? This was also the previous support area we've highlighted on the 4 hours picture. You can see this area here, where price came in, price respected this region, pushed higher, and then now it's currently in this region again, but you can see that break of the ascending trend line. We have also a support and resistance area. Price came in, tested this region over here as a support multiple times. You can see this region, and then it failed and closed below it. So back on Wednesday, we made the call that over here, right, this is the first resistance area to watch out for at the 111.80 level. This is the resistance on dollar index. Okay, so this is one area. So currently prices are sitting on the support zone, and we're expecting a deeper pullback into this resistance here. So this is the projection on Wednesday. So you can see that currently prices are just pulling back slightly, right? So this is the projection. So it hasn't reached the resistance area yet. It's currently sitting on support, right? So this is one area to watch out for. So I'll just remove the projection now that we have covered what we covered on Wednesday, right? So on this area itself, right, what you can do, it's again, this is the push before that pullback. So we can use a Fibonacci retracement on this move from high to low. So that's what we will be doing right now. Fibonacci retracement of this move from high to low. Open up the key levels, right? Same thing. So these are all the levels. You can open up all these levels because they're default on trading view. So you can see this area, right? So the level that lines up with this red zone that we have is this 50% here. You can see this in blue, this area. So we did a Fibonacci retracement of the move, and essentially what we did is to find a retracement level that lines up with this zone that we've identified. Let me remove this area because this is no longer valid, right? So previously we did a retracement from here. We found the 61.8%, but you can see that this low itself, to the right of this low, which is the current price actually broke below this low. So in this case, the retracement that we did many weeks back, right, trying to find that support, it was valid, but right now because price broke below the last low, so it's no longer valid. So in this case, right, this is the new retracement level. You can also do, again, extension. Extension has zigzag patterns. You can see that this is the zigzag pattern here. Okay, so I traced out how price moved, and this is the zigzag pattern. These are the 3 points we can use to project the extension levels. So Fibonacci extension of the move from 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3, same thing. Open up the key levels. So these are all the levels that we have. So the common ones, you can see that again, the one in blue that we have here currently, it's 100% extension. So this one, which you're currently seeing here. This, okay. So we have two levels that line up. Maybe let me just put it in a different color, purple, right? So that we're able to differentiate it. And remove this because this is not relevant. So yep, so this is the resistance area to keep a watch out for on dollar index. Right, so once price comes into this level, again, right, this is on a 4 hours, so you can go down to the 30 minutes time frame, and you can see that coming into this area, you can see bullish market structure being formed, higher lows and higher highs coming into this resistance. So on the reversal, we need to wait for a clear break below the last low, right, and then to see bearish market structure to confirm the bearish move down. Okay, so this is important, the break below the low, right? Because coming in, you can see that prices are still forming higher lows and higher highs. So if this is just a slight retracement that we're seeing over here, price could continue much higher here. So which is why it's important that we see a clear break in the structure before a change in terms of market structure here. So this is my view on dollar index, right? And let's take a look at US 100 as well as DAX. So let's take a look at where US 100 is right now, right? So, okay, so back this, I believe we did the analysis a few sessions back, right? So it's the same area, price actually reached this resistance area here, right? So price reached the resistance area. This was the zone that we need a clear break above, right? If you recall this analysis. So we need a price to break above, a clear break above this area for more upside, right? So this was the area that we were waiting for. You can see that price did not break above this, so there's no upside confirmation for us. So in this case, right, let's again look at a higher time frame. So higher time frame first. On the weekly, you can see that it's sitting on a support region. We highlighted this area. In terms of why it's a support region and why we highlighted this, you saw how price interacted as a resistance and then as a support here. You can look at it in candlestick patterns, look at it in line chart. You can see clear rejection and then a clear break above and a retest of it as a support. And right now prices are in this region again. So this is on the weekly time frame, right? If you go to the daily time frame, you can see that coming in here, we still have bearish market structure here, right? With lower lows and lower highs being formed, and even more so on the 4 hours as well. So you can see that this is the push down. We saw that break and then that pullback. So essentially what we did on, I believe this is the 4 hours time frame, is that we highlighted this as the resistance area. And the reason why we highlighted this again, if you just move slightly back on daily, you can see this region as well. Price came in, tested as support, and then failed as a resistance. So which is why we highlighted the need for a clear break above the structure first before we see more upside. And this is projected with this colored candles or the ghost feet here, right? So it's important that we need a break above this resistance before we see a deeper pullback into the next resistance area, which is here. So this resistance area again, right, if you recall, we did it, or rather we highlighted it because of how price interacted with this zone. That's one. If you take a look at it in line chart, you can see it clearly as well. So we highlighted the blue line here as well, just to show how price can divide this segment across neatly. We also did a Fibonacci retracement of the move. This is the last push before the pullback. So you did a retracement from high to low here, and we found that these two zones that we have identified, they line up with the 78 as well as 38.2%. So you have two retracement levels over here that lines up with the two zones. Okay. Yeah, so nothing much changed, right? It's still the same setup on the daily time frame. So again, a clear break above this region in order for more upside. Okay, so until price breaks above and close, right? So I'm waiting for ideally a clear break above and close as support to continue higher. If not, right, what's likely to happen here is that we could see this zone, this weekly support that we have over here, fail. So currently you can see that the resistance area is still holding, right? So what I'm waiting for is clear break above a retest as a support for more upside. But even then, you can see that I do want to highlight that it's still in a bearish market structure, even with this last move. And also prices are still holding below the descending trend line. So it's just something to keep in mind. So this area here. Okay, so for me, right, once price breaks above, we could see limited upside into this resistance zone. So this is my view on US 100, right? I hope that answers your question further. So in this case, right, this would be the setup here. And let's look at DEX. Okay, so on DEX, right, let's see the view, right? So this again on the higher time frame first, we saw the interaction between resistance, support, resistance and also support. So price failed, created a support region. Price came into this region. We highlighted this area again in the previous session, right? This is on the weekly time frame. And then also on the weekly time frame, or rather on the daily time frame, you can see it's the same thing. So the daily time frame over here, let me just remove all of this, right? You can see that in terms of structure, what we have here again, it's bearish flow. So let me just remove all of this, right? So let's do a fresh analysis here. So you can see again, right, lower lows and lower highs being formed, and then that pullback into this region. Back then, I believe this was the area. So let me just bring the analysis back. So you can see that this was the area that we highlighted as a resistance over here. And this area was also a support and resistance area. So this region here, and then a descending trend line. So you can see this area, right? So price essentially came into this area. We saw that slight push down before it continued on the upside. So this is one, right? So in terms of the resistance level, just looking at it graphically like this, you can see that this is the resistance level here. Why? Because we saw that strong rejection and that push into this blue zone, right? So this is one area. So again, you want to highlight this area here. So this is the zone. This is the resistance area, stretch across, same thing, right? You can take a look at it in terms of line chart as well, right? You can see how price divides this region. So this is one area here. And then having identified this region, what you want to do next, Fibonacci retracement of the move. This is the push down and that pullback. So from high to low. So Fibonacci retracement of this move, let me just remove this, right? So high to low, same thing. Retracement from high to low here. and you want to use the key levels, right? So these are the ones. And then you can see in this region, right, there are actually 2 retracement levels that line up with the zone that we've identified. So I'll just leave both of it here. So this is the retracement. And then for extension level, you can see this zigzag pattern. So in this case, right, having identified the zigzag pattern, you can use these 3 points to project the extension level. So this would be point 1, point 2, and point 3. So once you open up the extension levels, you can see that in this case, right, 100% extension, the one in purple will line up here with this zone. So for me, this is still a resistance level over here, right? So it's still facing resistance. You can see this region itself. And again, right, so potential descending trend line here as well. So in this case, right, for me, DAX 30, it's pretty much the same setup as what we saw on US 100. It's still currently on resistance right now, right, until there's a clear break in structure. If you look at it in terms of the structure, this is really the last leg that we have over here. So even when price breaks above this region, right, until there's a clear change in structure in terms of the break of this high, for me, right now where prices are currently holding, it's still bearish. So this is just one view, right? So I'm not taking any shots from here, but rather I'm just waiting for this region. So if you go to the smaller time frame, right, maybe let's use this example to explain further. This is on the daily. This is on the daily possible resistance area. You can see that coming into this region on the 1 hour or even on the 4 hours time frame, you can see coming into this area itself, right, very clear bullish market structure. If I were to paint out this move, let me just remove this colored or lighten the color so that we're able to see the rest clearer. Okay, so something like that. You can see same thing, right, bullish market structure coming in place. So you can see it's still higher highs and higher lows being formed here. So anywhere within this leg, it's possible that price can continue on the upside. So this is the last region, right? Or rather the last low that we want price to break below here before the bearish move. So this is just on the smaller picture, right? So for me, this is on the daily time frame, these are the key levels to watch. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Okay, so I think we have no other questions for today, right? So with that, we have come to the end of the session. Oops, sorry for that. Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, I believe we've come to the end of the session, right? So thanks everyone for staying with us till the end of the session, and we will catch you guys again next week. Right? So as always, trade safe, stay safe, and have a great weekend.